All right, good morning. Happy Monday, people. Bob here, back in action. It's Monday. Let's get right down to it. Break down some Bitcoin here. Hey, let's just talk about this first and foremost. Weekly chart on Bitcoin, and if it really within the last few seconds, just getting set up to do the video, it's pulled back, $150 or so. But more importantly, we got a lot of good things that happened here yesterday. So we did get a close above the 200 simple on the weekly chart. You can see that the price reacted accordingly. Got a nice pop overnight here. And now at this point, we just look for retracement levels. So, really nice pop on a Bitcoin here. Another thing too, you look at the weekly chart and we're actually getting, if I haven't dropped the trend line on here yet, but if I do, let's go ahead and do that real quick while we're in here. You can see here, you could draw a real nice trend line right up the price action here on the weekly. We'll just go ahead and drop that in, like I said, while we're here. And you got this real nice vertical trend line that's in play. Let's see, let's put another one on the other side there. So now, again, as of right now, and I was just talking to Matt about this, as of right now, I'd say, the likelihood is this is probably to a large extent an oversold bounce on the weekly. However, we did get this back test down here. So I think this might be out now. I'm beginning to actually believe that this was, in fact, the low, at least for now. Not to say it won't go lower later on, but at least in the interim, this seems to have been a low. Now, here's the beauty of it right now. So we've got a MACD that's crossing positive, MACD histogram that's slightly green. We've seen this recently where it wasn't great. And that was where, unfortunately, once it flipped green here, that was actually when it started its downward moves. Do I see that happening this time? Who knows? I just don't necessarily think so. And the reason I would say that to you, and I've probably pointed this out before, again, more often than not, when you're coming out of a bullish move, a lot of times what you end up getting is a 3-drive lower pattern. Now, it doesn't look like that when you look at the price action. You can see there, here was a drive lower. This is ultimately one drive lower, and this is a drive lower. But where you see that is more so on the RSI. So you've got the lower drive here. You've got this drive lower here, and then this one here. And typically, once you have that third drive lower in a bullish setup, that third drive lower is the one that carries it up and out, is essentially what you would normally expect. Now, is that going to happen here for sure? No, of course it's not going to definitely happen here. It's just as feasible this thing will start working its way up and then eventually get stopped out somewhere along the line. This line right here, this yellow one, would be a logical place. And that puts us pretty close still to 27-ish thousand, maybe 28, 29, 30,000 even. Again, we get a breakout though, and we're looking for 33,000 and change. So we're scaling up here. This is great. Given where we were, just a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So great there. Speaking of the month, let's just go ahead and take a look at it. I haven't taken a look since the beginning of this month. So let's just see. Yeah, look at that. Two nice green candles there. Now here's going to be the big thing on this one is that we've got to clear this 24,668, and I'm basing that off of this number here. So keep an eye on this when I hover over that monthly candle. The high was 24,668. We've got to take that out now, or you expect that you could probably come back down and retest some lower numbers. And again, we've talked about it. There's always these the feasibility that you maybe end up with something where maybe it'll end up looking a little bit like this setup right here, where you get another push, maybe up to this 26.5, again 30,000, and then maybe you put another red one in there. We're gonna see. This setup right here previously, a lot of red, 3 months of straight red, 2 months of green, a month of red, a month of green, and then back down. So, again, we've got a scenario where I think this one does continue to push to the upside this month. seems fairly likely this can or will happen. And so far, so good. So I like what I see here. Again, weekly chart, got just what we needed. Daily chart, still making progress up the way here. Held on to this trend line too. I mean, this RSI trend line. I mean, it looked like it wanted to lose it, but it found a way to recover it. We're back up here again. 1, 2, 3 attempts. So this will be the interesting part right here. Is what happens on this daily chart. Now we've got 3 attempts here at this level. If it gets rejected here, we're going to see a few days of downside, and then that next move to the upside is the one that's going to essentially dictate where we go from here. Because if you just kind of negate everything way down here, even though it's all part of the same pattern, I want you to negate what you see here. And if we just take this part into consideration, that's an ascending triangle, and that's bullish essentially 100% of the time, assuming it is in fact an ascending triangle. That's going to break to the upside the vast majority of the time. 1, 2, 3 attempts. You get a third rejection perhaps, and then boom, off we go. So this should be pretty interesting. I just don't know. When I'm sitting here looking at it, logically speaking, I don't know if I can expect that the rejection will come. Because you figure, look at, already we've got a 4% increase on Bitcoin today. It's not often that Bitcoin puts in huge moves, right? This one was about an 8%er here, about an 8%er there. But in general, 4 or 5% is about the max you get out of Bitcoin in a day. I mean, I could go back over this entire chart, and I'd be willing to bet that there are not that many days that are. I mean, here's a 15% day. That one was nice. 11% day. But again, if you're looking at all of these candles, you're not going to find too many that are greater than 10% in a day. And again, I can just keep coming over here. There's an 8%er. So let's assume that something in the 8 to 10% range is the max you're probably going to get out of Bitcoin in most days. And we're already sitting at about 4% right this moment. It's kind of gyrating back and forth there. But really, it's all about claiming this level and overtaking it and holding it. If at that point we can accomplish that, like let's say today we actually do pop up here to this 25.6, then all of a sudden, now we're just looking to retest this level for another blast off. So we got some good things going here on Bitcoin. Just a matter of where it actually goes from here. Let me actually kick over to this chart. This is the one that's got our parabola on it. Or it had the parabola on it. All right, so I don't know where that parabola went to, but I got one added back on here now. So, depending on the chart you look at, and I could, this particular one, I do have a parabola on this chart, and then we'll zoom in on it here. This particular one, I've connected these lines pretty well, at least based on for the most part, connecting these. It looks as though it was lost right here, and now it's making attempts to get back into it. The other thing would be that this is this was kind of a falling, broadening wedge type of a setup here. So it's feasible that it could have to come back down here to retest kind of a level right over here, here even. But at this point, it really just depends on what exactly Bitcoin wants to give us. But right now we are in fact trying to reclaim this level. This would be a good one too. I think this 23,822 should get a bounce there. Whether or not it actually comes back down further is another story. And these are Heikin-Ashi candles, so they don't necessarily represent a true indication of where the price is at the time. That's why I don't necessarily use this one for that purpose. So let's take a look back at the non-Heikin-Ashi. So, on this one here, it's tough to say. I mean, I think you could make the argument that it's still fully within a parabola, that it just barely started to lose it here over the weekend. But, again, with this wick being where it was, you could also make the argument that we're just outside of it, trying to work our way back into it now. So, it's tough to say, but again, as long as we continue to follow along this line right here on the daily, that's a huge deal for us. So that's what we're going to be looking for, really. Hourly chart, like I said, there are a few different levels I'll be looking at price-wise, and this 24,000 level is a good one to look at, potentially long again. Really as far down as retesting this level right here. So I think 23.5 would be somewhere I'd look at a potential long again. This 24,000 level, maybe. I doubt high. I mean, it's only been up above it. Right here was the only time it really went above that level and held it at all. Got a good bounce. So far, we have not received a bounce there. So I think it's fairly likely that we see this thing recede back into this range. And again, maybe potentially get us a full retest all the way down here or somewhere up into this, 23.8-ish range, 23.6, 23.8, somewhere in there potentially. That would be on the hourly. That thing too had its own little nice parabola going. I mean, kind of right here, it lost it. You get this hourly double top, and then it looked like it wanted to sell off into Neverland, and then all of a sudden it got bought right back up, and then a few hours later it's booming. So, beautiful thing there, really. I mean, we're getting the things we're looking for, and that's really all you can ask, is that you see something, it looked like it made sense, and then all of a sudden it played out the way you expected it to. So that's always a beautiful thing there. Now this, we actually talked about this recently. This, we were looking at this as a possibility, inverted head and shoulders, a rounded bottom. That's a full measured move from this rounded bottom. So the one thing I see that's still a negative here is that this is still our highest high. That we still need to take this high out in order to continue upside pushes. And so far, not so good, right? We've yet to take out this high. So, you might expect that today might be the day that Bitcoin does find a way to bounce off this 24,000 level, maybe say like 23.8-ish, and make that next move so we can take out that high. But on the hourly, we're super overbought. Like, I mean, you can see right here and then compare it over here. Now, if it happens the way that it did over here, well, this is good because it's gonna pull back while it's actually still working its way up, and then we're gonna get a nice pop there. So that would be the general look I would want to see if we are going to continue an upside push, is that we probably don't retrace back further than this level, right? Like, that would probably be the most logical place, somewhere right in here. Probably not going to get a full retest down here, even though I'd like to see it. But that's probably what we're looking at there. Now, the 4 hour might paint a little different picture, so let's take a look over there. So this one here, I mean, this thing worked out practically to perfection. I mean, look at this thing, just beautiful rounded bottom pattern. It hit here, made a few jumps, and then finally, here it is, presenting itself right there. Boom, beautiful thing. Now you can see this, as of right now, this candle on the 4 hour is shaping up into a topping candle. So if it just stays like this by 12 o'clock, then we could say fairly safely that this thing is is temporarily topping out. At which point, all right, based on this chart, maybe we're looking actually down as far as about 23.6. And again, negating the idea that we would actually come all the way back down here, 23.6 would be something that I'd look for at this stage. And especially with the fact that we are in fact up here into overbought territory, and again, you can kind of see Bitcoin when it got overbought over here. It had this real big pop, big sell off, and then it did come back and retest before putting in one more high. So again, that would bode well with what we were just talking about. Would be the concept that on that hourly chart, it would kind of line up with the idea that we could go ahead, and even though the RSI is pretty well maxed out and then starts heading down, there actually still is some upward momentum that will carry it maybe off this 24,000 level. So we've got a few different levels we're going to be looking for this upside continuation. And then, you know, the one concern I have here, and just kind of returning back to the 4-hour chart, is that we've still not set a higher high than this one. So we need that. We need that higher high. And can we get it? All right, let's see what the measured move out of this pattern is. Even that barely takes it up above 24.5, right around 24.6. And that might get us the higher high that we're looking for. But again, I think at this stage, it's just as likely that we come back and retest something down here before we have any chance of making that push anyway. So I'm probably going to be looking for this next 4 hours to be fairly uneventful, at least to a positive upside for now. And I could make that argument here for several reasons. Stochastic RSI potentially. The MACD histogram doesn't look terrible. That looks pretty well accurate. But yeah, you'll see the stochastic RSI is looking like it would like to curl down, and if that candle stays that way, it's going to. So, we'll see. As long as it doesn't end up looking like this guy here, right? We don't want to see one of these type of candles where it just dumps out the other side, and then all of a sudden we're hours away from just hitting this massive downtrend. But again, anything down to this level would be a positive retest. So 23.4 on the low end would be a great positive retest in spite of this. I'm a little less concerned about setting the new high for now, as long as we can get positive bullish retests. And again, talking about the parabola before, here we are. There's the parabola on this chart. And this one shows that we did possibly lose it for a short time before breaking back into it. So, again, everything kind of lining up with what we're looking at and talking about at this point. 15-minute, yep, here we go. This is what I was waiting on. So the 15-minute, this was interesting. I was looking at this morning. I've actually got this trend line on here, and I initially set it based on the 15-minute chart, but it also corresponds very well on the hourly. You can see here that we are, in fact, losing that uptrend at this point on the 15-minute. Now, we did lose it over here, too, and you can see that it didn't necessarily create absolutely destructive forces. It got a nice oversold bounce here, pop back in, retest, bearish retest of this parabola it was working previously, come back down, retest, reclaim the line, and then boom, off we go. I mean, and you can see it was right here as we're reclaiming that line, and this thing just starts taking off. So yeah, if we're losing it there, chances are good we're at least coming back to this level based on this chart. And again, somewhere in the 24K range has already basically been retested by the price action. So much more likely, I'd say, that we're coming back down into this range. Just always tough to say with any level of absolute certainty. But, this could be some interest as well. This has kind of got a slightly larger parabola pattern here. And then this is the parabola from the large parabola, the big one, going back on the daily chart. So if we can maintain this guy here, so let's say we come back down, and this maybe is our number, 23.6, boom, off we go again. And that's going to be the one that sets us up for that success and for pushing towards 27, 28, those numbers. And again, just bringing you the hourly here, you can see that trend line I made on the 15 held it almost perfect. And the same thing happened here. It lost the trend, reclaimed it, boom. Now it looks like it would like to start something of a flagging type of pattern, or something similar to this where, you come up, you're way up there in overbought territory. It tries to make a move to the upside, and then boom, just dumps out the other side. So I think the 9 a.m. candle, which frankly it wouldn't be surprising, you got the market, the traditional markets opening at 9:30. So that 9 o'clock candle could very well have some ugly push to it, right? It could very well start pushing its way down here. Moving averages are a lagging indicator. but there is still one more cross to be had here. You got the 100 here, the blue line, that still has to cross the 200. So there is some feasibility that this thing does make one more little pop and then, retrace back a little bit. But yeah, again, we got some numbers we're looking for. Are those numbers going to be perfect? Maybe, maybe not. We're going to find out here before too long. Over these next few hours, I expect it to be some interesting activity, and probably a little bit to the downside would be my guess. You got this bullish or bearish divergence up here on the hourly. Probably got a bearish divergence. No, not on the 4 hour. So yeah, the 4 hour actually. I'll tell you what, the 4 hour actually still has some potential left in there. I don't think that again. I mean, it's already hit a measured move from this pattern here, so I wouldn't expect it to just keep blasting off. Let's see it form a new pattern here. If it loses this parabola, so be it. It happens all the time. And again, that's where maybe we could see something further down. But Bitcoin has managed to continue to just put in higher lows. So you probably negate the idea that it would come back down this far. So again, you're looking realistically. I think this is probably the lowest number for now, unless this thing just absolutely dies out of here. Which again, everything's totally feasible. If we had gone on already and we were setting a new high, like if we were already above this high, then I'd feel better about this upside continuation. But it's feasible that we just end up seeing something similar to what happened here, where you got that nice move, but then it's got to consolidate down into this zone before popping out for another upside move. So we've got a few ways we can look at this. And again, overbought. Yeah, let's go back in there. Yeah, we're overbought on the 4 hour, way overbought on the 1 hour. Daily's not overbought, and it's trying to get into bullish control territory. So that's one that's in our favor. On the weekly, again, we're way down here. We're not even in neutral territory yet on the weekly. So again, as long as those things keep pushing to the upside, then all those short-term time frames only matter from the standpoint that you're going to get short-term pullbacks, and it's going to be a good opportunity to go in there and buy some stuff up. So, really looking forward to seeing what Bitcoin has in store for us today. Again, I'm going to be looking that it's likely to see some downside here over the next several hours before another nice upside push. So be on the lookout for that as well. We'll be trading a trend one way or the other regardless. So look forward to showing you guys some nice plays that we've made, and looking forward to catching up soon. We appreciate y'all, and we'll talk again tomorrow.